So you want to know how you can get £1,000 a month passively from the stock market. You need to know how much money or how many stocks that you're going to need to get that magic £1,000 a month income to pay for all of your living expenses, and hey, maybe even once that's covered, get that car you've always wanted. Generating income from stocks and shares and other kinds of investments is certainly not a new concept at all. Getting dividend payments from different companies or enjoying capital growth and then withdrawing it is certainly nothing new at all. As we know, and we should remind ourselves, the stock markets and general global markets go up more than they go down. So thankfully, by the time we've invested the right amount of money, we should, fingers crossed, be in a good position to be able to withdraw money and fund that lifestyle and get to whatever magic number that we've thought about. And even if £1,000 is way out of reach, hey, at least we can dream. But here's the real question, and the one we're all thinking of probably when you clicked on this video, is how much of one stock do you need? What stock might you need? And also how much of that stock and what kind of investment might you need to get to that magic £1,000 a month number, certainly without running out in your first couple of years. Now, there's certainly more than one answer to that question, so in this video I'm going to explore several different avenues and several different roads. Oh, and I wasn't clickbaiting at all with that thumbnail. There is a way that historically has been proven to get £1,000 a month income from just a relatively small investment, and in fact you'll be surprised you can get a lot more when you time things right. So this is the dream scenario. Imagine you're laying in bed thinking about your investments, and every month or every quarter you know that you've got enough money coming in that will pay all of your bills, and then you can take your lovely state pension or whatever other investments you have and just go and enjoy your life doing whatever you want. Sounds good. All you have to do to get dividends, as you already know, is hold a company stock on the right dates, and of course in return for doing that you will get a percentage, also known as the dividend yield, paid to you in cash, which you can take as an investment income or you could take and reinvest. Now, as we know, this amount can vary completely from one company to the next, all the way from maybe something like 1% all the way through to 10% plus, and there's even special dividends as well, and these are typically one-off payments given from a company who ended up doing a lot better than expected, so they don't know how to spend that cash, so they give it back to you. Now, when I've had those in the past, they've been very nice indeed. So long live a special dividends. It's pretty easy from a dividend yield to work out how much of a stock that you'd need to hold, certainly an amount of stock you need to hold to work out that £1,000 a month magic number. And I'll let you know what the formula is now. Very simply, to work out how much of a stock you're going to need, you're going to need to take that annual amount of income. So in this example, we're going to take £12,000 because that's £1,000 per month. And then you need to divide that by the dividend yield. So go ahead, find the stock that you like the look of, that British income stock or maybe that American stock that you like the look of, go and grab that dividend percentage, divide it by 12,000, see what you get. If, for example, that dividend stock was 4%, I'll just throw this up on the screen now. Let's say we do the £12,000 divided by 4%, we get £300,000. And what this means is we would need £300,000 worth of this stock to get a 4% income per year, which would equate to £1,000 a month. Not bad, but just use this as a bit of food for thought, because of course once we've got that £300,000 worth of that company stock, it's still going to be growing and it's still going to be paying dividends potentially for the rest of your life and beyond. So that £1,000 a month income is indefinite, and also that won't even eat into the capital what you've got in that stock. And although nothing's guaranteed, there's plenty of examples and plenty of companies out there who have consistently paid their dividends over 50 years in a row, which we're going to touch on in a couple of moments. So this is the juicy bit and some of the numbers I was playing around with earlier, so bear with me on this one. This is a really great example of what time in the market can do, as well as getting in early and only with a very relatively small amount of money. I've run an example here that says you would have only had to invest £10,000 at the start of your investment journey, contribute nothing else, and you could retire on £1,000 a month or even more for the right stock. So check out this scenario that I've run. Now, I know it's in US dollars, but just ignore that and you can replace the dollar amount with pounds amount. Everything else will come out the same. Now, here's what I've done. Here are the assumptions. We are assuming that you invest £10,000 as a lump sum investment, completely one-off, never else anything added, dividends are reinvested, and in this example, our money is being put in around 1988 and runs to the current day. Now, as a 32-year-old coming up to 33, I was born in 1988, which means that we're talking about a long-term investment here. So we are talking around that 30-year mark. So here's 3 different company examples, 2 from the US and 1 from the UK. We've got Lowe's, Coca-Cola and Unilever. Lowe's, if you're not aware, are basically the American B&Q, but they've got quite a good success story and they're another big dividend paying stock. Now just check out the numbers that we end up with here in this example. Remember, this is just one-off lump sum investment, dividends reinvested, riding this all the way to the current day. Now, even with the lowest option, and that was our £10,000 into Unilever, which is a UK stock, but of course they're a globally recognised brand and own hundreds of other products. They're the poorest performer, and we still end up with £318,000 in cash. And with no growth ever, if we just took that out as cash, we could pay ourselves £12,000 a year for 26 years. And that was our lowest end. Look at the other two options, both again high paying dividend stocks which have been very consistent over many decades. So you can see the next lineup is Coca-Cola, but then the absolute whopper is Lowe's. Lowe's gets you £6 million, and that's enough to pay you 100k a year for 60 years, assuming you took it out in cash. So assuming no more capital growth whatsoever, not even assuming we don't even have to leave it in. Crazy. Now what about using growth stocks and other stocks that aren't going to pay as a dividend? And what if we can put together a portfolio that we could end up just drawing from and essentially making our own dividends or making our own payments to get to that magic number, whether it's £1,000, £100 or £10,000. Now, there are a lot of people out there who will argue that dividend paying stocks are not really the way to go, because companies that pay out a dividend apparently haven't got any better way of spending it. They can't reinvest that money back into the business and they can't grow their business, so they just give it out to shareholders instead because they haven't got a clue what they're doing. And they argue that they don't grow as fast and they're not as good to invest in. And yes, for sure, they're both really valid points, and I can see from both sides of the arguments whether you want to actually go into a dividend investing portfolio or actually you just want to stick with either low cost index funds or maybe even pick a selection of growth stocks which you're going to hold for the next 10, 20, 30 years. In theory, you end up with a portfolio that's big enough to then just withdraw your investments down and make your own investment income, and whether that be drawing 10% a year, 12% a year, 5% a year, depending how well you've done in the previous year, may even be a good way to go. I watched a really cool video recently from one of the finance YouTubers in the space who's been around for a long time called The Chicken Genius. Now, if you ignore the name, he puts out some really interesting videos, and he's done a video which I will link to in the description that talks about how you can retire on Tesla alone, and using his own models and his own financial predictions about where Tesla will end up, he's worked out, without spoiling the video, how many shares and how much stock of Tesla you'll need to be able to retire in just a short amount of time, if, of course, his predictions are correct. So like I said, I'll leave that linked in the description below. Of course, he's going to be massively biased as a big Tesla shareholder, but I'm really interested in his modelling. If you do watch his video, comment and say I sent you. He'll have no clue. But hey, of course, we're none of us are financial advisors. We've got no idea what the future can hold, but it's quite interesting running these different scenarios that works out how quickly potentially you can retire, or how quickly you can reach some level of financial independence and get to a number in your head that you want to get as income for each month. So now really I throw the question back to you. There's lots of different roads to be able to get there, to get to that magic £1,000 a month, which I think we'd all like to aspire to, whether that's our portfolio growing £1,000 every month or whether that's real investment income that we can turn into cash. But there are two massive factors which are going to determine that, and pretty much is no easy route getting there. The biggest thing is going to be how much we can contribute every single month or in lump sums as we get paid. And the second thing is going to be time. We're going to need to spend plenty of time in the market to allow compound growth to do its thing. And then of course, it all depends on your different levels of risk. If you're going to go down the growth stock route, the dividend stock route, maybe a bit of everything, or if you're just going to go down the safe, low cost index fund investing route, hey, there's loads of ways to get there. Now, as you can imagine, of course, the younger you are, yes, I'm speaking from a position where I could potentially do lots of different things and make lots of different mistakes. But I did do another video too recently, and I'll just link that one up here, that talks about that it's never too late to start investing. And of course, you're not too old to start now. There's plenty of good years ahead of you. At least, I hope so anyway, and I wish you good health. And of course, if we never get started, the biggest thing we have to worry about, I'm afraid guys, is inflation. And it will eat away our money. Keeping cash in a bank account, as much as you might think it's safe, is getting less and less valuable every single day. And really, that will end up hurting you more than making sure that you invested in the market. And if there's anything I can do to try and help as more people get invested into the market as much as possible, I think it's an absolutely game-changing thing to do. I'm going to make sure I share as much of my experience as possible to encourage as many people in the UK and around the world if I can, to make sure they get invested, understand some of the basic fundamentals of how the stock market works, so they're not afraid of investing their money anymore or getting really, really poor low-level interest rates when they should be deserving a lot more. Getting that £1,000 a month in investment income may seem a long way away for most of you, and I know the average person in the UK certainly is nowhere near getting that at the moment, but it absolutely is possible on a very reasonable income. It's all about how much you can save each month, how much you can put away without sacrificing too much of your life, because of course you don't want to be sitting there eating beans on toast every night. It's all about trying to find that balance, but if you can, it's genuinely possible. The biggest contributor is time. So unfortunately, there is no easy, quick getting rich scheme here. It's all about long-term, consistent income, and you will beat 99% of people by doing it that way. So some final thoughts. Look, £1,000 is just an arbitrary number that I pulled from the air because it sounds pretty good, and actually probably for a vast majority of people here in the UK, that would cover a huge amount of their living expenses, especially once you're retirement, and maybe assuming you've got your mortgage paid off, £1,000 would go an extremely long way. And of course, if you add that onto what might be the state pension, fingers crossed, you could end up living pretty well. But of course, if you want to get to a number like £100 a month, £200 a month, £300 a month, the same sort of rules apply. You can use those formulas to work out how much you might be able to take, especially if you're going to build something like a dividend investing portfolio. But hey, it's nice to dream. It's nice to also work out what all the sacrifices that you're going to make to get there and whether they're worth it or not. And really, there's no easy way to get there. You've just got to go back to the basic fundamentals of investing, making sure that you're very consistent over a long period of time, and then also owning as many asset classes as possible. Lots of people out there say you need to own the world, own as many stocks, commodities, property, gold, silver, crypto. Hey, make sure you own any asset that can inflate with inflation, and you should do well. But of course, keeping it in cash, it's not going to go very far. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this interesting video. I wanted to put a bit of a different spin on things. Drop me a like if you have, subscribe for many more. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, happy investing.